Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of It's Brittany B podcast, a show where you and I go on a journey and break down subjects that most of us want to talk about, listen to, or want to be a part of. I'm your fun-loving host, Brittany, and today we have a special guest here today. And after this intro, I will tell you who he is. Now, if you're ready, sit back, relax, and let's chat. Okay, y'all. Today we have a special guest here. He's our first guest to appear on the show. And let me tell you that he's no regular Smegular guy, ladies and gents. Oh no, this guest I have here is literally one of a kind. He's an actor, a musician, a model, and an executive producer for the upcoming movie, The Port. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you World Pennywell.
What's up, everybody?
Hi, welcome to the show. It's great to have you.
Show's great to be here.
Pardon my voice. I just got over a sickness, so you're going to get this sultry voice today. First things first, let's get to know you. Who is World Pennywell?
Well, I would describe myself as an actor, executive producer, musician, a gangster, and a gentleman.
Yeah, gangster and a gentleman. Okay, well, where are you from?
I was originally born in Clinton Township, small town right outside of Detroit, but I've traveled all over the world. I moved all over the world, so I've lived in a lot of different states, a lot of different countries I visit.
Is that why you go by World?
Yeah, that's, a little something. So I gave myself that nickname.
Nice. Well, let's start from the beginning. Tell us about your childhood.
Well, I basically was raised up in a single-parent household, just my mother and my sister for the most part. And, we was like the typical, low poverty, Section 8 welfare type family, And for the most part, we just, we ain't really have much growing up. So it's not really much to really talk about. I spent a good part of my youth in and out of like juvenile homes, detention centers and stuff like that. And me, my mother, and my sister, we was raised up in like a small household. My aunts, my cousins, all of us was basically always together, always in one household. So like childhood was real fun for me, even though we didn't really have much money and stuff like that. We would still have, fun doing what we do as kids. We make up games, do what we do. I really didn't start to get into much trouble until I left outside of home. Inside the house, typical kid. But when I went outside, like my neighborhoods and stuff, it was like drug dealing, pimps, that type of environment. So, I didn't really go outside much when in my real youth. As my teenage years came around and I started actually getting out and mingling and stuff like that, that's when all the trouble started happening for me.
How old were you about that time?
I'd probably say about 15, 16. Yeah, about 15, 16 is when I started actually getting caught, getting in trouble or whatnot. But I always been a bad since I was a little kid, so it's not, it's normal to me because like everybody around me was bad. It wasn't no good kids around us.
What kind of stuff would you do out in the streets?
I mean, tickle stuff, steal stuff, sneak into the movies, break into people's houses, cars.
Yep.
Basically whatever we could do to, get a little extra money or, be able to get, some new tennis shoes or something like that for the most part. Okay.
Well, how about, did you have a relationship with your dad?
Not really. It was a small point in my life. I think maybe 2 years when my father was around or whatnot. But for the most part, he was in and out of prison. He went to state penitentiary, then he went to the federal penitentiary. And so he was in and out. So I didn't really see him much. And when he was out, he was a hustler. So he was always in the streets and stuff. So that wasn't really a part of my childhood. It was just really me, moms, and my sister.
Okay. What about, tell me about juvie. What got you in there?
Okay, so first thing happened was I ended up catching like assault charge, just for fighting, just regular stuff. And they put me on probation. So, when they get you on probation, you gotta follow the rules, or they gonna tap that butt. So basically, that's what happened to me. I ended up getting caught with drugs, crack cocaine, or whatnot, and then I had assault to do bodily harm, less than murder, like at the same time. So I got bonded out for one, bonded out for another one, and then the last one I never made it back home. Went to juvie on Christmas Eve.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah, it kind of
Merry Christmas.
Yeah, it was during the blackout too, so it was dark.
Oh,
it was dark as hell in there, so it was a little
probably cold.
Real cold.
Ooh, yeah. Well, how do you think that juvie affected you, like, as a teen? Because, growing up, I can't say that I've ever been in juvie. I grew up with a single parent household. It was me and my mom, my brother. But I know that juvie would have affected me. How did it bug you? Like, how did it?
Bug me. So I guess when you say like you're a product of your environment, like I guess sometimes when you poor, you don't really know you poor. And like when you really like off the wrong path and you really like real mischief and everyone else around you the same way, you kind of don't realize that like you should be doing something different.
It's like a norm.
It's just a normal. So it's like all my friends went to the youth home, went to, Boysville, Maxie Training School, Wolverine, it was kind of like a badge of honor for like troublemakers. So it wasn't like one of those things where like I was like my life is ruined type thing. It was just like I'm going to juvie for 6 months or a year or whatever, and I'll be back home and
see you soon.
See you soon.
How about when did music start incorporating in your life around that time? Because usually you hear different rappers talking about like I've always listened to music. Usually incorporate like what their, how do I put the word correctly? How, their trouble in their youth kind of inspired where they were coming from. And did music pop in your teens for inspiration where you wanted to do music?
Not really so much. Music for me as a teen or youth was more like recreational. It was more like a hobby thing. Mm-hmm. But when I did get locked up, like in the youth home or juvenile, I did, write a lot of poems and raps during that time. And I did a lot more like freestyle and stuff like that. But I never really pursued music. It wasn't like a passion. I didn't really think it was a realistic way of like getting out of the hood.
Mm-hmm. Well, you said you could freestyle. That's really hard. But you were just like off the bat.
I mean, I guess it depends on the talent that's around. So like when you're a kid, you freestyling about food and candy, just, somebody's butt or something like that. It ain't, really lyrical or nothing like that, but it's real fun.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Well, so you were in and out of juvie as a teen. Well, let's transition into like adulthood. What was that like when you turned 18? How was the world then? He's a man. He's an adult. What was that like? And we don't even have to just be stuck at 18, just when you entered adulthood.
Well, okay. Well, I guess at 18 when I was, going into adulthood, I was already in trouble. So I was facing two felony charges in 2 different states.
Before 18?
At 18.
At 18.
Yeah,
oh,
one at 17 and then one at 18.
Coming in adulthood strong.
Yeah, came in exactly how they programmed me to come in, Yeah. But I was basically facing 2 different charges, an armed robbery charge and then soliciting of drugs in 2 different states. Basically similar situation. I got bonded out in one state, went back to another state and got caught in another state.
Oh my God.
I guess I wasn't that good of a criminal now that I look back at it.
That is funny. How about so you were saying you were hustling as a kid and you were dealing with 2 felony charges coming into 18. Did you still continue to hustle? Like did you continue doing the things that you were doing?
Yeah, I mean, my whole life I basically had to hustle in some way, shape, or form. But at this specific time, I had to, get it that way. That was the way I knew. That was the way that, people, my peers around me were finding ways to close the gap between, the have and the have-nots. So, drug sales, robbing, pimping, those things in my neighborhood was the type of stuff that, people did to make money, to close the gap from, the poverty gap. So, at that time, I did whatever my environment allowed me to, whatever the environment gave me. So if I moved to another state and, cocaine or weed, or prostitution was the thing there, then that's whatever I would do, to make money at that time.
Okay. What about, when did you go to the penitentiary in your adulthood?
19.
19?
Yeah, 19.
Okay. Now, I like how you mentioned on your YouTube channel with stories and music that you said prison was like a criminal college. What did you mean by that? Well, explain to the audience what you meant by that.
Criminal college, exactly what it is. It's like you're in a facility, just like Western or Eastern Michigan of U of M, and you have dorms and dorms and dorms of convicted felons. Everyone's in there from small time, check cash and stuff, all the way up to murder. So you're in there with, it's like a university for criminals. Every yard, all the doors break and all the criminals come out to the yard. Everybody mingle, and you'd be surprised what you learn in there. You learn how to cook food from scraps. You learn how to make shanks from scraps. You learn other people's crimes, because they're telling you what they did to get in there. It's like bragging rights once again. So they're, you're figuring out what they did right and what they did wrong, as far as with their crime. So that's why I said it like it's a criminal college. Like all people in there is doing is figuring out ways to become better criminals.
Different courses, like you said, how to cook, how to build shanks. That's like culinary arts and
whatever
auto body type stuff. Did you, well, obviously I would imagine you faced challenges being locked up, but more as a growth, or maybe not as a growth. Did you deal with any challenges while you were in lockup, or did you have anybody there that has inspired you, or tell me about that. Did you have a mentor?
Well, I guess everyone that goes into prison is gonna have some form of mentor. Like you either gonna roll with, the Sunni Muslims, the Christians, the robbers, the East Side, the West Side, whatever your state, however your state is made up, Bloods, Crips, whatever. So I would say like the biggest challenge was not really the people. I moved a lot, so it never really bothered me to be in like diverse of different people. What bothered me is like prison politics and like correctional officers. So there's a lot of, inhumane things that go on there. It's a lot of things that, the officers do to the inmates and stuff like that, food, so on and so forth. I could really write a book about that type of stuff. So adjusting to that, like having people tell you what to do, where you can go, what you can't do, locking you in your room,
And you're a grown man, and there's a man telling you, Yeah,
so that is. And then in there you have like different groups. So like you got to understand the politics, like how things run, like who's in charge of what, and do's and don'ts basically. So that was challenging because I was very young, so I didn't really know much, and I'm not really I wasn't really a social person. So I ended up coming across a gentleman named Flag Bay. He was in there. He was like 23. I was 19, but this was his second prison bit. He had did like a 1 to 3 and went home, and then came right back. But he basically taught me the do's and don'ts of prison, like how to jail, they would call it. So yeah, he's a real good brother, very intellectual and smart and intelligent. I didn't find out till months later that he's doing 2 natural lives. So I was like hanging with him for months and months and months. We just kicking it, working out, cooking. And he talking about going home and, like things he gonna do and stuff he gonna do with his kids and all that stuff. So like in my mind, I would have never thought he was doing a long time. And then I was only doing, a short time compared to a lifer. So I didn't really know it, but like basically we became good friends. We started out working out, cooking up, kicking knowledge, black empowerment, talking about how, like, men got to take care of their family, how they got to, hold it down and, change the cycle and so on and so forth. So he didn't really mentor me just for prison. He kind of actually helped me mentor me for life.
He sounds like a big brother role.
Exactly what he was.
Nice.
Big brother or big cousin or, big uncle, however you want to put it. Yeah.
Oh, that's good. That's nice. What about, let me figure out how I'm going to ask this. Tell me about the LB story that you mentioned on your Stories and Music on YouTube.
About LB,
yeah,
my uncle. Okay, well, so my last 2.5 years of prison, I ended up getting lucky. You call this lucky when you ride into a joint, because they transfer you to different facilities after so long. So I had came back from Tennessee because I had to fight a case. So they transferred me from one state to another to fight a case, and then brought me back. So I happened to get lucky, and I ended up going to a prison where my uncle was there. I call him my uncle. He was my father's best friend. So when my father was in prison, he would come around, buy me shoes and give me money and look out for me, grab me coats for wintertime and stuff like that. So I always called him my uncle. So I ended up at a prison with him, and he basically taught me the ism, pimping. That was his, his profession. That's what he did. That's what he was great at, from our environment. So, he taught me the game and just, how not to just settle for anything when it comes to friends, family or females. Like, you got to have boundaries, moral standards, and you got to stick to it. You can't, really bend the fold too much on that. And, that helped me a lot in life too. That helped me get my first 6 figures, you know what I mean? Because it helped you to be disciplined and it helped you to weed out, BS, and a lot of stuff that I previously dealt with before I went to prison. I had a whole different mind state between Flag Bay and LB, like the devil and the angel on my shoulder. It kept me balanced, gives me that edge. I keep my street, but also, became intellectual.
And then you put it together and you become just
World Pennywell.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, I like that.
Mm-hmm.
Nice. I do like that. How about, okay, so let's talk about transitioning out of prison. So you're released from prison, and as you mentioned about Flag Bay, he opened up your eyes that, you could still make it, LB, let me rephrase that. Okay, so transitioning out of prison, you're released from prison, and as you mentioned, LB mentioned about, the isms and helping you grow, stuff that you can apply outside of prison. What happened after you were released?
Well, basically, I was released during the recession. So it was like 2009, 2010 era. So, my mother, which was my only support system at that time, I ain't have no like friends or, ladies at the time that was able to support me. Everybody was really doing bad, People were losing their house, losing their jobs, Stock market crashed, everything, had went down. So when I came home, it was really no choice for me but to kind of get back into the streets. I really didn't want to. Like, I really felt I had evolved. So, like, when I was doing it, like, my little conscience was telling me, like, man, you got too much game for this. You got, that was my uncle saying, like, you got too much game for this. Like, you way too smart to be doing what the average person is doing in your situation. Like, you have to find, a better way. So, I initially started going to college. So, like, it was just, like, the only thing that I could do, really. It wasn't because I wanted to get educated. So, I wanted the student loans. Like, I needed some money. You know? So,
I feel you on that.
So, I initially started for the student loans, but I was going to be a gynecologist. But then I found out you couldn't get licensed, for real. You couldn't get licensed as a felon. So, it was like, well, I'm not going to do this. So, then I went to, like, surgical technology, which is, the person that passed the instrument to the doctor.
Yeah.
They ain't gonna let you work in no medical field with no felonies either. So now I'm back to, like, a little discouraged.
Right, like what the heck? What
no
am I
job,
gonna do?
schooling don't seem at this point, it don't seem like it's for me. So I go back to the streets. That's when I, start applying, all the hustles I had previously, plus my new knowledge from prison into like the streets, and basically doing whatever I had to do to make money. But it didn't really last too long, because like 3 months later I ended up back in jail, and lucky by the grace of God, they sent me back home with a tether, and I was on house arrest for like 90 days. But during that time in jail, like, it was like, I don't know, it was just like a rude awakening. Like, like, you way too smart, you way too like intelligent, like, you have to apply yourself in something else, because you got a lot more potential than the average person. And I knew that because when I was in prison, like, I was like a GED tutor. Like, that was one of my jobs. And
really?
Yeah, I was like, I would teach people like their GEDs and stuff, because they had tested me. I had a real high IQ. So I had graduated at like 17 and stuff like that. So when I went there, that's what I started doing. I started helping people get their GED. So when I came home, I'm like, dang, I really wanted to like continue like educating myself, but the streets was calling me, so I had to do what I had to do. And that little set down for that month in the county jail saved my life and changed everything around, because I eliminated a lot of hustles that was really just throwing rocks at the penitentiary, and I just honed in on one or two, and that's when I decided that I am gonna go to college. So I moved completely out of my area. It was the hardest thing to do, from like, and I moved like hour and a half away, and just enrolled in Eastern Michigan, and I was like a personal trainer during the daytime, going to school in the afternoon, hustle at nighttime. So that's what I did like every single day for like 2 years. And then I started getting degrees. And then once I seen like, oh, okay, I got a few certifications, 7 of them. Then I'm like, oh.
7 certifications?
I got 7 certifications, yeah.
Nice.
So then I got an associate's degree in accounting. So I'm like, dang, and I cum laude, passed with honors, So that was that motivated me. That really showed me like, yeah, look at, I'm not the ignorant person you thought I was. Like, I'm intelligent. So it never helped me get a job. It never helped me get a job, but it did a lot for my confidence. It did a lot for my confidence. So I continued. Then I got a bachelor's degree in marketing, and then I got a master's degree in social psychology.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
So that's basically what happened after prison. And then from there, I just, I took my money, and I started putting it into real estate and, flipping houses. And, I started doing stuff smarter, like running an escort service instead of trying to have girls on the strobe. Like, why would I be out on the strobe where the police is a no, but escorts is okay? Women can come give you massages, take you to dinner. It's just like right now you got eHarmony and all these, dating websites. Like, the escort services was the first dating site. So the helpless soul that, needs a companion for the night, they would call me, and I would send one of my college associates to them, and it'd be a fair exchange for everybody.
Oh my gosh.
So yeah, it was like I said, I started using different stuff, but then I, was able to venture on into as an entrepreneur and open up cleaning services and landscaping services and web design services. So I have a few different little business I try to dilly-dally in,
Did a whole 180, and so you applied your hustle into lucrative businesses.
Correct.
Oh man,
Mm-hmm.
that's
correct.
amazing. What a flip.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a flip to me, because you got to remember, I was only doing crime to get money. So once I got knowledge and I found that, okay, they're not going to hire me in corporate America. No one's going to give a 2-time felon a job. Not one of a master's degree of my style. I should be making a nice salary. But, I can't get employed from nothing because of that. It never comes off your record. So learning the stuff that I learned in school about financing, marketing, and then, networking with the people that you meet there. You got a lot of brains there. You got women, men, teachers, professors, so on and so forth that, that you can all get game from. I call it game. Like, you all can get game, and that game I applied to businesses and to life, and to help me make the money I was making in the street without taking those chances.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, I am talking with World Pennywell. This is part 1 of the interview, and thank you for listening.